Okay, welcome to the Gita in Action podcast. My name's Radha, and I'm here with our family of seekers. We're reading through the Bhagavad-gītā, this ancient yogic wisdom text that's still incredibly relevant to our lives. And we're being transformed. I get so many text messages from all of you. All of you are live folks and our friends who listen after. I just had lunch with a listener yesterday. She was telling me all of these things that she's learning from the Gita and how it's changing her life. And it just lights me up and inspires me to see how sincere you are all. And it really humbles me too. It's like it's such an honor to walk this path with you all. It's such an honor. And today we are in chapter 13. We're finishing up the second section. Is it the third? I think it's the third section actually of chapter 13. Before we do that, we are almost sold out of our yoga festival. I'm getting these like low inventory alerts on my phone from the Squarespace website that we're getting low. So if you want to come, register soon. If money's an issue, text me and I can help you connect you to a scholarship. So that's exciting. And India, it's August 6th. So you have 25 more days to get the early bird special for India in February. So check out our website, all these offerings, consciouscollectivelife.org. And you can register for everything there, get more information, text me with any questions. Okay, let's get into our nectar for the day. Just before we do that, Shakti, do you want to say our prayers for us?
Yes, I'd be honored. Thank you. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavembhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaitya Gadahara Shri Vasari Guru Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you, Shakti.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so let's get right into it. We are starting with chapter 13, text 17. That's where we're starting today. Chapter 13, text 17. And for one reason or another, this isn't showing up. Oh, there it is. Okay. Whenever you're ready, Shakti, could you read this verse for us?
Krishna. Although the supersoul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all.
Thank you. So this verse is continuing the theme that we've seen over the past several verses. Krishna keeps describing himself in a way that seems maybe a little bit contradictory. So he says that the supersoul is God in the heart. He says he's undivided yet appears to be divided. So what does this mean? Krishna is situated in everyone's heart as supersoul. That we all have God in the heart. We have an individual soul and God in the heart too, called the supersoul. And so it's like, does this mean that he's somehow divided into like billions of little pieces? And and the answer is no. He's still one. And it's kind of like we can think of the sun. Imagine it's noon on a bright day. And if you travel thousands of miles in any direction, and people say, "Where's the sun? Where's the sun?" Everyone would point up and say, "It's right up over my head." And in that way, it could sound like there's like thousands of different suns. One over Pittsburgh, one over London, one over Toronto. But there aren't. There's only one sun. There's only one sun, and it's simply illuminating every place at the same time. Does anybody ever like to just look up at the sun and think about all the millions of people, billions of people around the world that are looking up at that same sun? It's really quite amazing. So Krishna's like this. Krishna's one, yet by his unlimited potency, he's personally present within the heart of every living being. So he hasn't been divided. His presence is unlimited. And that brings us to this next point, which is one that we circle back to again and again in this class together. And that is that, listen up here, because even though we circle back to it again and again, it's because most of us don't really realize it. Even though we're doing things, we're not the ultimate doer. So, and Krishna says there, he says he's the maintainer, but he's also responsible for creation and destruction. And it's nice to think about because so many of us walk around this life thinking, I'm making all of these things happen, especially like us controllers or us managers. Maybe you control a household, maybe you have that kind of as a job position, and you start to think that you have a little bit more control or power than you actually do. And the Gita tells us, of course we have to act. The Gita doesn't tell us to just sit on the couch and put our feet up. Krishna's a doer, so I don't need to do anything. It's like, no, we have to make choices. We put forth effort. We take responsibility. But we have to understand this is an important point, and this will bring so much peace in your life if you could really imbibe this truth. We have to understand that our effort doesn't guarantee the result. You can think about something as simple as like losing your wallet. You accidentally drop it, you come back, and sometimes it's there. Sometimes somebody will call you days later if you're really fortunate, and sometimes it's gone. Or you can think about like having a child. Sometimes people, both the mother and father, can be healthy and try to have a child, and it just doesn't work for them. Everything they're supposed to do, it's not happening. So we have to understand we participate in the process, but we're not the doers. And this is so humbling. I really appreciate this in doing service because if anybody's ever like tried to do some outreach, it's tough. It's tough. Sometimes you plan things and nobody comes. Sometimes you plan things, you don't even advertise them, and then you still see them fill up, and you're like, what is going on? And it's very humbling. But it's also kind of a relief because our part in it all is just to act sincerely, make our best effort, and then understand that I don't control all the variables that are determining what's happening next. It's just like take yourself out of the picture, take yourself out of the center. We just do our best and we do it as a service. And then we understand I'm not the doer. This is such a relief. And then there's another part of this verse that can maybe be a little harder for us to accept. And this is that Krishna isn't only present in creation and maintenance. He's present in destruction too. We learned this a couple chapters ago, pretty like graphically, that he's present in destruction too. And so everything in this world moves through cycles. You see this, and it's funny because we're surprised by it, we're hurt by it, but at the same time, we see it all around us. This is the way of material energy. Like something is created, it exists for some time, and then it changes. And then it eventually ends. Our bodies do this. Relationships do this. Careers do this. Organizations do this. Entire civilizations do this. Even planets do this. And our default mode, our default conditioning is labeling one side of the cycle good. Creation. Creation is good. We all get so happy when little babies are born and it's so sweet and exciting. And destruction is bad. The end is bad. But Krishna is saying, I'm present in it all. And this doesn't mean that destruction doesn't hurt. And it doesn't mean that we're supposed to pretend that loss feels wonderful, because Krishna did it, so it's wonderful. It just means that we can learn to see our circumstances through a larger philosophical vision. And instead of asking, like, why is this happening to me? We can begin asking things like, Krishna, how are you meeting me through this? What are you asking me to learn, to release, or to take shelter of right now? I was again my friend I was just having lunch with yesterday is going through a major transition. She's getting ready to move. So it's the end of a lot of things that she's held near and dear and 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 come to get a lot of, security and shelter from. And it's to this whole new thing. And I was sharing with her some of my experiences about that very same transition that I took in my life when I moved to another state and I kind of started over. And it's like, I look back on it, it was like one of the toughest times of my life, the end of all of these things. But at the same time, it just cleared so much space for something so new, for just like a metamorphosis, it's like a clean slate. So these cycles have purpose in themselves, even if we can't see them at the time. Sometimes we can, and we're like, I'm so excited for the new adventures that await. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes we lose a job. I think I've gotten about 4 text messages from people this week that have lost a job recently. And it's really difficult. Your whole life is changing. You're very uncertain about your future, about how you're gonna, maintain. It's very scary. And at the same time, it gives us this great opportunity to take shelter of what is real, what is eternal. And in that, to the degree that we take shelter during those moments, during those times in our lives, they could become opportunities for our metamorphosis. I told her, you're a butterfly. They could be our butterfly moments if we choose to see them like that. And understand we might not understand everything when it's happening. It may feel really painful, but maintain that faith that Krishna has a plan and he's the ultimate maintainer. He's the creator. He's taking care of us, even in these cycles of destruction. There's a beautiful story in the Bhagavatam about a king named Parikshit Maharaj. And this king learned that he had only 7 days left to live. Most of us can imagine how we react. Like, how do I stop this? Who did this to me? Is there any way out? But instead of spending his time, his very small remaining time fighting against reality, he just accepted what was happening. And he saw Krishna's hand in even what looked like a tragedy. And rather than asking, why is this happening to me? He asked, how can I use the time I have left to become closer to Krishna? And that's what he did. He spent his final 7 days just hearing about Krishna, spiritual discussions about the Lord, which then ended up benefiting all of humanity for the rest of time because all of this conversation got documented and is now what we know as the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is enlightening to say the least. But for this king to have this extraordinary level of consciousness, where he's getting ready to die and he's ready to take shelter of Krishna. He's not fighting it. It's really a North Star for us. whatever we're going through, whatever's coming to a close. And it's not for us to even necessarily, we don't need to pretend that we're already there because this, again, is a very high level of consciousness. But we can begin practicing it in the smaller endings and disappointments of our own lives. Sometimes things don't work out. Sometimes someone leaves, plans fall apart. We may lose something that we thought we needed. And our first reaction might still be disappointment. That's normal. That's human. But underneath that reaction, spiritual vision allows another thought to eventually emerge. And that is that God is here too. He's here when something begins, he's here when something's flourishing, and he's here even when it's ending. And this is maybe part of this verse that Krishna is asking us to understand is that don't mistake change for his absence. Sometimes it's just the form of his presence that is changing. But don't let that fool you into turning away because he's not. He never turns away. It's us who turn away. And then if we can turn towards him in those really pivotal, difficult moments in our lives, he will elevate us right through them. So before we go on to the next verse, is there anything anybody would like to share? Hopi, see that hand go straight up.
Hare Krishna. Oh my God, I feel like you are describing my current situation right now. About, moving into, I feel like I have been meditating on moving out of New York for about 5+ years now, and I haven't been able to take any steps because there's a fear and anxiety, and I definitely struggle in remembering and trusting and taking a leap of faith that Krishna will be able to put all the puzzles together for me, uh, like job, and then do I take mom with me or not, and bills and moving expenses, and the guilt that I'm a caretaker for my mom, that I'll be a bad daughter. So there's a guilt that I'll be putting her in discomfort situation if I do decide not to take her with me when that moving does happen. Um, so I think there's a lot of pressure probably I'm putting on myself where I am thinking I need to do this versus having that faith that I need to take small steps and Krishna will gradually put the puzzles together for me that I'm trying to solve uh, before I could take a move. And I think I get stuck in that cycle of trying to solve and put everything together before I move. And I just can't seem to put it all together. Uh, so this share resonates a lot with me, where I go on shutdown mode when there's too many decisions to make and too many important areas of my life would be impacted. And me being an empath and people pleaser, I get stuck in this emotional mindset. It's like huge part of my heart knows the next step in my whatever journey or whatever it is change of environment. And all that change is so scary, and I struggle to I struggle to trust that Krishna will take care of all of my worries, such as
Mm,
bills, rents, mom scared, this, that I give up.
mm, yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing with us, Poppy.
Thank you. Yeah,
You know,
this was
sometimes, yeah, it's healthy to like want to have a plan to put that your life is together. We need some level of security, and we can't just like of this act like we don't because we're yogis now, and we're just because the reality is most of us, our consciousness is not quite there that we can actually be that detached. And when we try, it becomes a little bit premature renunciation, and then things can become a little bit entangling and conflicting. So we do have to make some effort to situate ourselves so that we're in a peaceful situation. At the same time, we can't come to this place where we believe that we're the sole doer, and we have to have a little bit of faith too. So it's both. We have to be where we're at. We have to be responsible and do our part, but at the same time, we can't become so obsessed with being the doer and the controller that we become paralyzed because we see that we're not, and there's so much uncertainty that we can't account for and plan for, and so then we just don't do anything. So it's definitely that a balance there. But I have firm faith that as you move forward in your spiritual life and you take shelter of Krishna, you have a steady sadhana, a practice every morning. You wake up, you connect with Source, you'll get that inner guidance from within, um, whether it be super soul, whether it be a teacher outside of you, sastra, what we're studying, that will provide clarity for you, clarity, support, and shelter at every step of the way to help you strike the right balance. Because if we're not connecting with Source, we're just relying on ourselves. I mean, prepare to be unbalanced because we're finite. We don't have that level of intelligence and wherewithal to be able to figure it all out. And we're never designed to. So yeah, we hear you, Popey. We all hear you, and we're all here for you, holding that space.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's like my faith in such situation. It's almost as if like I expect like a child throws tantrums, like make the path easy for me, show me the bright sun, and then once I see the sun light, I will trust that it's brighter on the other side, and I'll follow you because I'll have faith. And I don't know, it's shaky. Like I don't want to say I
Mm,
don't, believe in Krishna at all. I do. I think when things like this, where it will impact some important areas of my life, I think this is where it becomes um, a struggle of just like saying, I'm just going to pack my bag and leave. And yeah, thank you for
mm,
listening.
yeah. Like when we think about our strongest relationships or when our relationships, a certain relationship has become really strong, oftentimes it's when we've gone through difficult times together. It's like it's nice that when we have fun together, that's great. But when we go through something really difficult with the person, you really build trust and bond. And in the same way, our relationship with God can become so strong when we go through tough times and turn to Him for shelter. That can really be like a redefining moment in our spiritual life. For many of us, the birth of our spiritual lives. So when we see it like this, it's such an exciting opportunity, like a baby being born. Everybody knows that's a very exciting time. This is we're all kind of babies being reborn, and sometimes these moments can be the impetuses to that birth, and it can be exciting if we choose to see it like that. Whatever happens, we know our faith is going to increase, and we're going to grow stronger and closer to God, and that's the whole point of this life. What do you think, Shashank? Shashank?
I don't know how to say this, but with whatever you told in this verse, if this doesn't break any kind of our ego, I really don't know what else would be breaking, right? So that being said, so we try so hard to make things right, thinking that everything is in our control, trying to match everything, and we are really working hard to get things in control. But we realize after hearing this that even coming to this session, this wonderful podcast also is not in our hands. It is He who is making us come. So even when we think that, okay, tomorrow morning we need to wake up, that's also not our plan. It is what He has decided for us. So that means there is nothing which is in our hands, but we take so much of stress, tension, I don't know what not to take everything in our control. I think all that we need to do is just give it up and let Krishna take care of everything.
Hmm. I like that realization. Yeah, Krishna is always guiding us from within as super soul. And he's always guiding us. That voice is always there. We can't always hear it. But when we start to turn towards Krishna, when we start to make more decisions in our life, inviting Krishna into our lives, that voice becomes louder. I mean, actually, it's always there, but we become attuned to it, like we were talking about. And all of a sudden, it's like things that were maybe really difficult or seemed like they were going to be really, we just get through them with more ease, with more grace. And this builds faith. And then it inspires us to take more shelter of things like classes like this, wisdom text, teachers. And it continues. This is the spiritual process. And so yeah, coming to this class, we're all guided here together. And we've all made that conscious decision to put more of these things in our lives. And that's just an open door. That's just opening the door for Krishna to continue guiding us. Very nice. Thank you. Katie.
Hi, Krishna. Um, yeah, it makes me think of expectations. Um, like, and thinking something new is going to be lasting and like my new job, like maybe this is going to be like the career change I go with for the rest of my career, and pretty quickly, which I've talked about, it really hasn't been meeting the expectations and I figured out though that I feel grateful for that because it's lessening my attachment to something material.
Hmm.
And like in a practical way, um, with the babies coming, I've thought, well, this is like if I need to quit this job and find like a stay-at-home job, that will be easier because I won't feel as guilty or feel as attached, if I say I want to go back 4 days instead of 5 and they really fight that, then I'll know, that's I need to like um decide what's right for our family. And if that doesn't work, let go and not do that job anymore. And yeah, so I think uh it can these situations can help us actually like not feel against or upset with Krishna, but actually think, okay, wait a minute, this is just guiding me in a way I didn't expect. Um,
Yes.
yeah, and then that softens everything, and also with like it's funny because my expectations aren't being met, and I feel like a lot of the stuff there is like be in two places at once, do 13 hours of work in 8 hours, and so obviously their expectations aren't being met either by like most of the staff because they're unrealistic, you know
Mhm.
and so that's kind of a little irony. But yeah, and then last night Rukmini mentioned a verse where it talks about other things, but one thing was like don't fear troublesome people. And it was making me think, like, if you have these situations in the material world where relationships aren't as what you might have expected or hoped for, like, we don't need to do as much, and Krishna, we don't really need to do anything, and Krishna is there to I mean, actually the verse says he don't fear troublesome people, he will destroy them, but so it's like, just keep trying, try not to be too over attached, and still show up in a kind way best we can, and not focus as much on these things we thought would be different, and then that over focus, not doing that, we can have more room and time to remain more connected more consistently, and our mind can be more focused on Krishna instead of like overrun by thoughts of like, why, or this is not what I thought. So
Yeah.
thanks. Yeah. And for the other 2 shares, thanks very much.
Yeah, I feel like you just put the two points of this verse together really nicely. Is it that we are not the doers, and Krishna is the maintainer, the creator, the maintainer, and the destroyer. And just like you said, we go around this life and we almost don't expect things to change. Like when things change, we're surprised. When we get a job, then we're surprised when it's gone. When we get a house, then we're surprised. And it's teaching us like, no, expect this. This is the cycle of life. This is material energy. It's gonna be created, it's gonna maintain for some time, and it's gonna destruct. Expect this, but recognize that we all have this internal need. We all have this like very deep-rooted need for that which is eternal, for that which is unchanging. And in that, see that what we're seeking to fill that need is actually by definition not going to satisfy it.
Yeah.
And it's like if I'm thirsty, I'm gonna eat pizza. Like what?
Yeah, and you reminded me, I was also thinking, like, we're told over and over, like, the material world is tough, like Kali Yuga is a hypocrisy and quarrel and like, it's not like we, it's told over and over, like, don't expect it to be as some for it called, like a dumpster fire. So
Yeah.
that's not something we haven't been warned about. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're all just walking around in a desert, so thirsty. And and we're eating like something salty that's just making us thirstier. And it's time to like recognize, like, stop eating those potato chips. They're only making you thirstier. Walk towards this beautiful reservoir of oasis of fresh, clean water. It's ready for you. And we still don't get it. But we're trying. We're trying, and that's why we're here. And what do you think, Nancy?
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for your shares. I kept on thinking, there have been so many instances in my life where I've left claw marks as I'm trying to let go. I was dragging myself and trying to adjust it and trying to fix it. But I think that the thing that came to me was, I think, I do believe faith without works is dead. This beautiful idea of balance, as you spoke about, Rhonda, having to actually let my feet do some of the work, but not having these expectations and doing the best I can. And we talk about a lot of times about God's will. And if I keep in my mind, God's will for me is to love you. I'm trying to do what I can in a loving way. But the thing that came to me with it, everybody sharing, is that this idea of trusting that I'm not the doer, it gives me pause. Things don't come up and I have a knee-jerk reaction to life because of my deep faith that Krishna is there with me. I sort of settle and just slow down, pause, pray, ask for some guidance and some help in this. And it seems to release my fingers, my grip on situations because of that pause and that prayer. And it really makes it so that it's like, okay, so what's next? I'll do whatever I can in a loving way. So the pause is very important to me. So thank you so much, Verada, for the class and for everybody else's shares.
Thank you, Nancy. Shakti.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Good morning. Um, wow, Poppy, I think I know a bit of this from the retreat. We talked a little bit about some of what you're saying, but I honestly, when I moved to Canada at 50 years old, all my friends, all Jaden's friends that he grew up with were my friends. So I had like my friend group. We'd go for coffee. We'd go, I don't know, for a light bite. I had people that I had, like I had association. And then if I wanted association with devotees, I could go to the Bhakti Center. I could go to New York. I could go to Super Soul. And now I'm in bum God knows where, Canada, at 50 years old. I'd never been to Canada before, and George is like, yeah, my job is moving us there. I'm like, why? Why? I don't want to go there. I hate it there. I mean, I've never been there, but I already hate it. Like, I don't want to live in an igloo. And it was like, uh, and my whole life, I was, if anyone knows me, like personally, um, and I'm not one to say anything good about myself, so I'm definitely not puffed up. But I'm a go-getter. I'm out there. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Like, I'm not like kind of shy and introverted. That is not who I am. And when I came to Canada, we moved to this place, which is like, I mean, like we went to go to dinner at 8 o'clock, and it's like everything's closed. Like, where are we? Like, we're in, like literally in the middle of nowhere. The temple's 2 hours away, so association is really hard to get. And I didn't know anybody, and I went through a really hard depression. I was I was so sad. I I wanted to just check out. Like I was so it was so hard for me because I was alone. And I don't really thrive just on my own. Like I love reading scripture. I love taking scripture classes, but being by myself all the time, like George would go to work, Jaden was in school, and I was, you know, like again, and here's the thing, we materially we bought this beautiful house which we wouldn't have been able to do in New York. We have a pool. We wouldn't have been able to buy a house with a pool in New York. It would have been $1 million or more. But we were able to do that here. Guess what? I was no happier. I was no happier with the more material things. I was alone. I was like a prisoner in my home. And was, I felt stifled. I felt like, and then COVID came. And it was, yeah, I mean, and I have to tell you, I had to, um, and this is to Poppy and anybody else, I had to literally pull my butt up and say, all right, you're either gonna like, are you taking a bottle of pills? What are you doing? Are you gonna kill yourself? Is that what's happening here, Stacy? No, that's not gonna happen. Okay, so then what are you going to do? What are you gonna do about this? Because I can't live. I am not a mopey popey. I can. Oh no, well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean popey, but I'm not like a mopey guy. I didn't mean mopey popey. I meant like I am not like a. I can't live in this. Poor me. And I can't live in that. It really affects me, and so I just like I asked George. I said, I need you to help me on your days off. We have to go to find Krishna consciousness places. Go there, and then that's how I found Bhakti Marg Maharaj. He was in in two different places, and as we kind of crossed Canada and went to all these little yoga circles, I found Bhakti Marg. And and then I could feel him coming to my face and wiping my eyes to open
Mm.
my eyes to the torchlight of knowledge. I could feel him. And then I would open my eyes and he was like, okay, Hare, Krishna, Hare. Like he's got this whole like bubbly thing about him. And and so there was a start of like the rebranding. I don't know what else to say, but like the rebranding of like, okay, I'm not there anymore, but I'm here, and there are things I can do, and now, I'm running a Bhakti Yoga Circle with George, um, and we're working on building that and bringing Bhakti to more and more people as we can. Um, so I have, definitely service. I got initiated while I was here. I think things came, but I didn't like. I had to put in the footwork to like. I had to do something, and I knew. But I guess for me it was hard. Like I had George, and so Bhakta Jorge, he said he didn't care. Like for me, I'm nervous about driving to places I don't know where they are. He's like, don't worry, I'll drop. We'll go. We'll go to Milton. I'm like, where's Milton?
Mm.
Don't worry, I'll take us. And I started finding. He said, why don't you drive in with me? Go to the temple. And so I
Mm.
started doing things very outside my comfort zone, especially at 50 years old and plus. And and things did start to change. And I put my temple together, and I started to talk to my, every morning I would go down and wake up, go to Anita, I talk to my deities, um, offer them.
Shakti, from the outside, I see this. I see you. I feel like you're the highest you've ever been, like by
Mm,
far. That's
mm,
been my external observation. George is nodding his head. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is all all because I have been praying to Krishna that I can surrender, and can he guide me and help me, because I cannot on my own. I am of no use.
Mm.
I am a meat suit with
Mm.
nothing. And if Krishna does not guide me, yeah. So
Beautiful.
there is
Thank you.
my point to you, Popey, is that there is hope. There is hope.
Mm. So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Shakti. Martine.
Good morning. I was just thinking of everything that was shared and I was reflecting. There are different phases when change come into our life. There is that excitement of something new, right? Discovery, like climbing a mountain or going on a hike we have never done or going, participating in an event, like a marathon or a race or whatever it is. And then it becomes, then we settle into a cadence, a routine, because we learn. In a case of a job, at first it can be overwhelming, and then slowly we find our mark, and then we establish work relationship in the environment. We understand the company's culture, the guidelines, and whatsoever. Finding our. It is very for me. It has always been uh, exciting in a way, right? And sometimes you fake it till you make it. Years and years ago, I interviewed for a job in semiconductor industry, and by happenstance, the gentleman's kids were in my son's school, and I wanted to get a job, and my sister was working for the same company in France for many years, right? Um, and I did some research, and I had like 4 hours interview for a position that was, they didn't know what to do with me, right? Um, 2 hours in various languages, but let's not go there. Um, and uh, and I had no idea. I mean, talk about faking it. It was like the Everest of faking it, right? And then you plug through, and then you make mistake, and then you leverage yourself, and then you learn. And I ended up staying there 10 years. And then going into software after that for like 18 months. I would still have been there, but my boss drove me crazy. So when the crash happened in 2008, I quit, which was not a good timing. But anyway, so there is that phase of newness and Shakti. Maybe by your nature, maybe newness for you in Canada was like, what am I doing in that hole? But in fact, Canada is a beautiful country. You've established relationship. It's a different pace. You're such a New Yorker that, everything is New York reference, just like my husband, by the way. And then gradually you let that rubber band loosen up, right? Loosen up, loosen up, loosen up. And you realize that you are where you're supposed to be in a way, right? We started in New York too, and it took us 15 years to get New York out of us. We are in New York and then Boston, and now we're in Maine. I mean, people move south and we keep moving north. I mean, there might be something to it, but never mind. Let's not go there. So it's about cadence and about, and then you settle into the place or the job for that matter. So poppy for you. And then it's getting old. For me, I had big chunks of my life in different fields, but there is always a thread that conducts through whatever you do, right? And then either you stay on there because it provides for your family. You're not a risk taker in the sense you don't want to get out of that because it's too earth shattering, it's too scary, it's too whatever it is that we put in our mind, right? And for some people, that's what it is. They're able to really separate work. This is what I do to provide for my family. Even if it's not exciting, it gives me stability. I can pay my bills, I can provide education, I can buy food, I can put money aside for later on in life or for emergencies. This is what I need to do. And then outside of that, once I close the door at 5 o'clock or whatever it is, I'm able to just do me, right? Or us, or whatever it is that we do. And then, there is, if that's not something that works, then you need to look for something else. And in a way, it's a chase, right? What are we chasing, right? For me, I wanted to be a phys ed teacher. That's all that I wanted to do. Very competitive field in France at the time, very difficult. It was almost pre-med. And my parents say, what, are you 40, you're going to high jump? Because that's what I used to do. Well, at 45, I did triathlon. So, but, the point is, it's, so you have to compensate. And then later on, I've been teaching yoga and doing all kinds of stuff. But so I think it's settling in and accepting. And what are we chasing at the end of the day, right? I'm still at 70. What am I chasing? Now I don't know the words in English, but even though I'm fluent in English, sometimes they escape me. But, you come and you start doing your tally, right? And Nancy and I are close in age, so you start doing your tally and you want to just be at peace, right? And I don't know if Stacy, Shakti, and George, now after 10 plus years in Canada, would they go back to live in the craziness of New York? Or just, no, you see, as much as I love.
Just visit. We would just visit.
Yeah. So just like me, as much as I love New York, and it wasn't the best time in New York when I was there, my daughter was born in 84 on the St. Luke's Roosevelt. And I love New York. It wasn't the best time in New York City at the time. I was I worked midtown and I was walking. I loved walking in New York. You pay me my weight in gold now and tell me I'm paying you what you weigh, which is not light these days, but and you move back to New York. No, absolutely not. No way on earth, right? So it's finding the balance. And it's all good to see Shakti, realizing that. Poppy, you'll get there. Just don't let yourself be overwhelmed. Just make a list, little things at a time. Literally a physical list. Take a piece of paper and check one at a time, because that helps. So I hope that was helpful, and thank you for your presence and your shares and your wisdom and for guiding us, Radha.
Thank you, Martine. Such a wealth of knowledge. Somebody who's gone through so many creation, maintenance, destruction cycles in this life, and is now you're at the point where you're really seeking that which is eternal, and really taking shelter of that creator, maintainer, and destructor. And that's where we're all supposed to be. That's what the point of all of this is. All this knowledge, this entire life. We can, if we step back and look at it, creation, maintenance, destruction, this is the cycle of life, and everything is on a cycle. How do we get through it? We take shelter. That's it. We take shelter, or we will drown in it. Kripa Maya, do you want to take us home here with some final words of wisdom?
Well, I was really appreciating everyone's reflections, especially when Poppy spoke of the Krishna putting the pieces of the puzzle together in our lives. And, it just made me, reflect on how, we were all trying to feel whole again, and to heal ourselves and feel whole. And I thought that was a beautiful, very graphic imagery, analogy. And it reminded me of something I just heard recently by Keshava Maharaj. He said that the first chapter, actually every chapter of the Bhagavad-gītā is a yoga. And I forget the Sanskrit, but the first chapter of the Bhagavad-gītā is called the Yoga of Despair, the Yoga of Depression. And so someone asked, well, how can depression be a yoga? And he said, refers to have, in this opening chapter, we see how Arjuna is breaking down. But in order to break through, we have to first break down. So I thought that was very succinct way to put it. That we break down and then we are on our knees and we break through.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for coming, sharing your hearts and your wisdom. And we will see you all on Monday. And we'll interview Nancy. We'll learn more about her journey and recovery, and the ups and downs and lessons in between. So please come and continue this Sangha, this connection with our community, this journey. So we're walking each other home. Thank you all. See you on Monday.